Welcome back to Mystic English, where every story doesn't just help you improve your English, it helps you reconnect with parts of yourself you might have forgotten. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, not just to build your vocabulary, but to build a deeper understanding of yourself through stories that speak to the heart. Ben was a regular guy, worked a decent job at an insurance office, earned enough to live simply, and wasn't trying to become famous, rich, or extraordinary. He was the kind of person people called a good soul. Always polite, always available, the guy who would lend money without a second thought, who'd drive across town at midnight just to help a friend, who never said no, even when it hurt. His phone was full of conversations that started with, "Hey bro, quick favor," and always ended with him doing more than he should. At first, it made him feel proud, needed, useful, and appreciated. But over time, something began to shift. It wasn't one big moment, but a slow, quiet realization that crept in during the loneliest parts of the day. Like the time he lent someone a good amount of money he needed, and they never brought it up again. Or the time he helped a friend through a bad breakup, gave them weeks of emotional support. And then, when Ben's father was hospitalized, that same friend didn't even check in. Still, Ben smiled through it all. He convinced himself he was just being kind. That someday, someone would be there for him too. That if he kept being good to people, they'd return the favor. But the truth was far more painful. No one remembered the times he said yes. They only remembered that he always would. It all came crashing down one weekend when Ben fell seriously ill. Nothing major, but bad enough that he couldn't get out of bed. He texted 5 people he had helped countless times before, just to ask if someone could drop off some food or check in on him. No replies. One person even left him on red. These were the same people he had driven to the airport at 4 a.m., helped move houses in the rain, and lent money to without asking when they'd return it. Now he just needed someone, anyone, to take him to the doctor, or at least bring some basic meds and something warm to eat. But no one came. Not because they were too busy, but because they knew Ben would understand. He always did. He lay there, sweating, exhausted, his phone silent, and in that stillness, something changed inside him. It wasn't anger. It wasn't even sadness. It was clarity. He realized he had mistaken being nice for being needed. He had confused being useful with being loved. And worst of all, he had spent years showing up for people who would never do the same for him. That night, he found this channel, Mystic English, and clicked on a video titled, "Stop Being Who They Expect You to Be." It wasn't just about English. It was about identity, about how some of us perform kindness so much we forget who we are when we're not giving. And for the first time in years, Ben felt seen. He watched that Mystic English video 3 times in a row, not because he didn't understand it, but because for the first time, someone had put words to the ache in his chest. It wasn't burnout, it wasn't loneliness, it was the grief of realizing that you've spent years being everyone's emergency contact while having no one of your own. Ben began noticing things he had ignored before. How people only called when they needed something. How he was invited, not out of friendship, but out of convenience. How he couldn't remember the last time someone asked how he was doing without following it up with a favor. And worst of all, he realized he had trained them to treat him this way. Every time he said sure instead of no. Every time he rescued someone from the consequences of their own choices. Every time he gave without boundaries. He had taught people that his time, his energy, his care came without cost. The shift wasn't sudden. Ben didn't wake up and cut everyone off. But he did something harder. He started setting boundaries. When someone asked to borrow money again, he said, "I can't this time. I'm working on my own goals. When a colleague asked him to cover their shift for the third time in a month, he said, "I'm sorry, but I need this weekend for myself." And when old friends started noticing the change, they called him selfish. But Ben wasn't angry anymore. He just smiled, because he finally understood. People who benefit from your lack of boundaries will always call your healing selfishness. The best part? With every no he said to others, he was finally saying yes to himself. His mornings became quieter, his thoughts became clearer. He started reading again, not because someone asked him to, but because he wanted to. He went for walks without his phone. He started rebuilding his energy, and most importantly, he stopped begging for love in places that only offered obligation. Ben's kindness didn't disappear, it simply got filtered. He still helped people, but only when he truly wanted to. He started asking himself, would I still do this even if they never said thank you? And if the answer was no, he didn't do it. Because kindness without consent isn't kindness, it's self-neglect. And slowly, something magical happened. The people who stayed in his life were the ones who respected his space. They didn't just take, they gave. They listened, they showed up. Not because they needed something, but because they valued him. Ben wasn't nice anymore. He was kind, but only on his own terms. And in that difference, he found peace. It wasn't that Ben became cold, quite the opposite. He became warmer, but only to those who didn't drain him. There was a calmness in his presence now, like a man who had finally stopped trying to prove his worth by bleeding for everyone else. He no longer felt guilty for resting, for saying no, for not replying right away, because he finally understood something simple but life-changing. If your kindness always costs your peace, it's not generosity, it's a trade you'll eventually regret. On his birthday that year, something happened that confirmed everything. He turned off his phone. No party, no announcements, just a quiet day by the lake, a book, and his own company. Something he had learned to love again. And when he returned home, he found a single message from someone new in his life. No long text, no emojis, just, "Hey, I don't want anything. Just wanted to wish you well. You deserve more than what you've accepted." That message didn't just make him smile. It made him breathe, because it reminded him that he wasn't asking for too much. He had just been asking the wrong people. So, to anyone listening now, who's tired of giving and getting nothing back, let Ben's story be your permission. You don't have to stop being kind, but maybe it's time you stop being available to people who disappear the moment you need help. Because the truth is, being a good person doesn't mean being a doormat. You're allowed to choose yourself. If this story resonated with you, please share and subscribe to Mystic English. Not just to improve your language, but to reconnect with the parts of you the world has tried to take away. And comment below, "I'm learning to choose myself." Thank you for watching. We'll meet you in the next video. Till then, take care of yourself. And remember, kindness is a gift, not a currency. Don't keep giving to people who only know how to take. Be thoughtful, not blind. Be generous, not used. And above all, don't be too nice to people who never deserved it in the first place.